Good afternoon. We are here to speak on some very important issues. It may be good news to some people and bad news to others, but for us, it's very, very important that we address you today. I'm happy to welcome you all, a public speaker, an orator, Mr. Daniel Bola. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. Last few weeks, the nation is greeted by so many reports on the social media and the mainstream media, which raises concern on the character and fitness of the candidate running for the post of presidency of the All Progressives Congress. You will recall that some years ago, the former managing director of Alpha Beta lodged a petition at the EFCC against the former governor of Lagos State and now a presidential candidate of APC, Bola Tinubu. The petition involves massive corruption and misappropriation of funds belonging to the government of Lagos State, abuse of official office, conflict of interest. The petition, as you will all know, is with EFCC, and presumably after some years now, there is every assumption that the EFCC ought to have concluded the investigation on that case. And that's why we're calling on this meeting to request that the EFCC should address Nigeria on the outcome of that investigation. You would also recall that most recently, information circulated in the media space about a drug conviction on the Bola Tinubu by a court in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States of America, which led to him forfeiting over $400,000, like a conviction, and then he paid for the sentence on that conviction. We also know that today in Nigeria, opioid and most of this drug-related addiction has or is creating a national security threat to Nigeria. NDLEA is an example, and you saw also most recently NDLEA intercepted large volumes of cocaine. Till date, we know that they arraigned 1 or 2 persons, but they have not been able to address Nigeria on their investigation on that. How many people are involved, who is linked to it, and on this occasion we're calling on the NDLEA to address Nigeria as to the outcome of their investigation about the intercepted drug. You know also, because we raised that recently, that the candidate of All Progressives Congress, Bola Tinubu, and his people created a militia. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria we're seeing a political party creating a militant arm leading to election. And it is also predictable because it was shortly after his speech in London when he advised that his people should grab by all means necessary the process leading to election, that they created this militia. Shortly after that, we have seen violence in Nigeria, in different states, in different rallies, even in homes and in the streets. And we are calling on the law enforcement, especially the security and intelligence platforms of this country, to look into that, investigate, and if necessary, arrest anybody that is involved in the creation of a militia. We are also calling on the international community. We already know that a number of election observers, international, are in the country, the international community and the federal government, to look into this, because this is a threat to the peaceful conduct of election. You would also notice, gentlemen of the press, that recently a serving minister of APC has written a letter to the agencies of government. And these agencies of government, if you look at our constitution, are members of the executive branch of government. In other words, he wrote a letter to members of the same branch to which he belonged, and demanded that within 72 hours, they should prosecute a candidate running for presidency in Nigeria, Atiku. In the press conference, they bragged about their powers and control of the law enforcement. In fact, he, while serving as a cabinet member and campaign spokesman, remember, as a cabinet member, he's being paid by the taxpayers' money. He's using the official privilege and the powers conferred on that office to intimidate agencies of government, including going to court and filing a case against the agent of the same branch of government to which he belongs. And this is happening at a time when the president told the world that he's going to deliver a legacy of free and fair election. In fact, recently, he was reported to have ordered that cabinet members should focus on governance so that those who are in politics should focus on politics. So now it's raising concern. People are beginning to wonder whether it is the president who is, by proxy, using this cabinet member to infiltrate or influence or intimidate the agency of government. And I think that we're calling on the president in order, because we believe that he's committed to delivering a fair and fair process, to immediately sack the Minister of State for Labor and Employment for abusing the office that he has, because that office is being paid for by taxpayers' money. And you cannot create confusion in that cabinet. There is also this threat to life, and I can tell you that because I myself have received threats from Asiwaju and his camp, and this is evident, is everywhere I've reported to law enforcement. A lot of people have been threatened. I am not surprised because a militia has been created, and I'm calling on the government to look into that. So finally, gentlemen of the press, there are many other wide range of issues that will come in the coming days, but this is just the introduction of what I have to say. I will yield the floor to our next speaker, who will in detail speak about the reason why we are here today.
We are currently at a crossroads, and the wrong decision, any wrong decision we take, could spell doom for this great nation, and that will be forever. Nigeria is battling many problems at the moment. We have banditry and terrorism ravaging many towns in the north, militants attacking oil facilities and bringing the country's economy to its knees in the Niger Delta, while secessionists are holding the southeast to ransom. It will be a huge disaster to add state-sponsored drug trafficking into the mix. It is no longer news that Bola Tinubu, the presidential candidate of the APC, has direct ties to drug lords and was used as a conduit pipe to launder their funds. Court records show that Nigeria's drug kingpin Adeboyega Muiz Akonde ran an elaborate network of heroin traffickers in Chicago in the 1980s. This investigation has revealed the identity of other individuals, including relatives who have worked for Akonde, with various duties in the distribution organization. One of these individuals has been identified by the investigation as Bola Tinubu. Kevin Moss, a special agent with the Inland Revenue Service, reflected clearly in the court records that Akonde took Tinubu to First Heritage Bank, where he opened an account for himself and his wife, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, in 1989. Tinubu revealed in documents that he worked with Mobile Nigeria Limited and his salary was $2,400. And he had no other sources of income whatsoever. But records from his First Heritage Bank account showed that in 1990, Tinubu deposited $661,000 US into his individual money market account. And in 1991, he deposited $1,216,500 into the same account, that's the money market account. But Tinubu, the political Maradona, quickly entered into an agreement with US authorities and forfeited $460,000 US in order to avoid jail before running back to Nigeria. This is not a story that is unknown to you. But this has not changed the fact that he has been in cahoots with drug traffickers and drug dealers across the globe. And in the next few minutes, I will let you know how this came by, particularly as it relates to his personal company, the Alpha Beta Consulting. Alpha Beta Consulting, you know, is a company based on affidavits deposed to by the former managing director, Dapo Akpara. Tinubu continued to corner the finances of the state through his firm in the writ of summons marked LD 7330GCMW 2020. Akpara narrated how Alpha Beta was formed in 2002 when Tinubu was still the governor of Lagos State, in breach of the Code of Conduct for Public Officers. He said Tinubu accepted the proposal he made to him, but gave many conditions, including that his own people would own 70% stakes in the company. And some of these persons, including the former governor of Osun State, Adeboyega Oyetola, and one Olumide Ogunmola, who held 70% of shares in Alpha Beta. The records are there. Akpara stated that Tinubu was a sitting governor in 2022 and controlled Alpha Beta, which was receiving 10% of tax collected on behalf of the state. He went further to state that Tinubu directed the incorporation structure of Alpha Beta Consulting Limited be changed from a limited liability company to a limited liability partnership under a new promulgated law in Lagos State. Of course, he fronted that law. And why he did that was simple: to hide his identity. He needed to hide his identity as the man behind Alpha Beta Consulting. And that was why he took that step. And he got his pliable tools, who are the former governors of Lagos State, former and present governors of Lagos State, who are errand boys in his hands, to do that bidding for him. Well, Akpara went further to tell us that as head of the company, he began looking into the accounts and its finances and made startling discoveries, such as mysterious transfers of billions of naira, including a payment of 1 billion naira to Vintage Press Limited, publishers of the Nation newspaper. The former MD of Alpha Beta said he realized that all the payments were sanctioned by the partners nominated by Bola Tinubu. But you see, of all these transactions, there are so many other transactions that are contained in the text and copy of the press statement that we shared with you. But the one that will shock you today is the transaction made to Summit Integrated Services Limited, curiously on the 18th of March 2015. We're talking of a man who was convicted and who forfeited $460,000 US to the American government because of a case involving or related to drug or heroin trafficking. But as of 2015, Bola Tinubu was still involved with drug traffickers. Yes, the records are clear. I put it to him and his agents, his goons, that particularly from the documents provided by Akpara, the former MD of Alpha Beta Consulting, Tinubu's company, Alpha Beta, transferred the sum of $4,396,063 to a company known as Summit Integrated Services Limited. Summit Integrated Services Limited, please, can you show us? Summit Integrated Services Limited is a briefcase company created through a company creation service called Quality Company Formations in the United Kingdom. It is owned by one Epaquio Joseph Golanzales Oliveros, and he has all his children as directors in that company. This man is resident in Barranquilla, in Colombia. And our investigation shows that the net worth of his company as at 2015 was no more than $50,000 US. So what is Bola Tinubu's company, Alpha Beta Consulting, transferring for over $4 million US to that company in 2015? This is the question, the big question Nigerians are asking. For a man who wants to be president of our country, what is the transaction about? What was he paying for? Please, let us not forget too that Barranquilla in Colombia, please, you are as professional journalists and for those of us watching us live from their respective homes, Barranquilla in Colombia is known for one thing. They have one of the biggest seaports that is notorious for the trafficking and export of drugs and heroin in the world. You can run a check on that. And that is why some of us are not even surprised when he goes to campaign rallies and he talks about baba blue, and blah blah. That possibly is a language in Paranquilla in Colombia. Ladies and gentlemen, Tinubu's inexplicable wealth is not new to Nigerians. In an interview with a news magazine 10 years ago, he said he returned to Nigeria after the June 12 with nothing. They dispossessed me, in quotes, I'm quoting Bola Tinubu. He said they dispossessed me of the house as well as my office on Saka Tinubu Street, my vehicles and everything else I owned. They claimed they found bombs in it and dispossessed me of it. It was totally cleaned out. I had only 5 shirts, 2,000 pounds, and jackets. Today, Tinubu claims to be richer than Osun State. In a viral video, which is still available online, when Tinubu paid a courtesy visit to the Ataoja of Osogbo, Obajimo Olanikbekun, where he boasted that he was richer than Osun State. He told the gathering ahead of the 2018 election in Osun State that Osun does not have his kind of money. His aides immediately issued a statement saying he was quoted out of context. But ladies and gentlemen, Tinubu afterwards went on to restate, particularly on February 14, 2019, publicly, while addressing party faithful, that he was richer than Osun State. How much is your money that I will embezzle? You can't match my pockets. I told them so, and their traditional rulers were seated. On the eve of the presidential elections in Lagos, 2 cash-laden bullion vans were seen on the premises located at 26 Bodilon Street, Ikoyi, which was ostensibly for vote buying. When journalists asked him, you remember vividly, my dear colleagues, about the bullion vans, Tinubu responded by saying that it was his money, and he was free to spend it whichever way he liked. Even if I have money to spend in my premises, what is your headache? He was quoted as saying. A group of forthright activists, including our dear brother, may so rest in peace, Ariel Dare Atoye, and Deji Adeyanju, wrote a petition to the EFCC on October 25, 2019, calling for investigation and prosecution of Tinubu for breaching the Money Laundering Act after publicly admitting to sharing millions of naira on the eve of the elections.